Okay. He's okay.
He's fine.
Yes, he's okay. I know. You're welcome.
We're in the emergency department. I'm a nurse, and like I hear these stories. And I have 4 kids, and I always think like, how could that possibly ever happen?
The Volusia County Sheriff's Office released this body cam video of that rescue. Thankfully, that child is okay. A woman walking by noticed the 8-month-old in the car and called for help just in time. The mother didn't come back for another 25 minutes. She told investigators she thought she had dropped her child at her father's house. She's now charged with child neglect.
According to a recent national report, 52 children lost their lives in hot cars in 2018, the highest number on record. Dr. Baruch Fertel is an emergency department physician at Cleveland Clinic. He says the inside of a car can climb to deadly temperatures even if it's not incredibly hot outside.
With the windows fully up, as the temperatures outside start to rise, or even if they're not as hot outside but the sun is shining directly in the car, it could be a matter of minutes before temperatures rise to dangerous levels, 120, 130 degrees Fahrenheit, that could be deadly for a child.
Dr. Fertel says children are more susceptible to the extremes of temperature because of their size. Even a short period of time in very hot temperatures can cause severe heat stroke or even death. He says the overwhelming majority of families who suffer these tragedies are caring, loving parents who may have become distracted. Some experts recommend putting a cell phone, a purse, or something else that's needed in the back seat to force yourself to check it, even if you're sure the child is not there. He says it's good to get into the habit of checking every single time, and when you get home, make sure removing your child from the car is the first thing you do. Dr. Fertel says people should feel empowered to speak up if something doesn't seem right, because intervention could potentially save a life.
It's so important if someone sees something to say something. If you're a daycare provider and usually a child comes by a certain time and they're not there, call the parent and ask, why is the child not there? Did you not mean to bring the child?
Dr. Fertel says it's never okay to leave a child in a car, even for a minute, because that minute could turn into 10 minutes or an hour with devastating consequences.
It's a nightmare scenario, a young child locking themselves inside a car on a hot day by accident, one that mum T. Huynh hopes she never finds herself in again.
We had a very close call. My daughter was playing with keys, which you shouldn't do, I just found out.
A simple mistake RACQ says happens all the time. In the last 12 months, they've rescued 1,300 babies in similar situations.
That's around 3 or 4 babies every single day in Queensland. Never give your child the keys to play with. It's just too dangerous.
The statistics are not improving, and with a heat wave on the way...
So Monday and Tuesday are looking to be the hottest days this week, with temperatures through a pretty wide area reaching the mid to high 30s, with a number of locations also getting into the low 40s as well.
It's a timely reminder to always take children with you, even if it's only for a short period of time.
It takes just as little as 7 minutes for a vehicle to reach 40 degrees.
Even when parked in the shade, temperatures can reach 85 degrees.
Not only will this put a child at great risk, you could also face the law. Any parent or guardian who leaves a child unsupervised intentionally for an unreasonable amount of time risks up to 3 years imprisonment.
Better to be safe than sorry. Natasha Proknievich, 9 News.
Tonight we are hearing from the mother of the 20-month-old girl who was found dead inside a car earlier this week. Thank you so much for joining us at 4 o'clock. I'm Kirsten Joyce.
Good afternoon. I'm Brian Loftus. Officials say the girl was discovered unresponsive by her father inside the vehicle on H Street near Owens, but would not break the window to get her out. 8 News Now reporter Kate Houston is live from the Clark County Detention Center, where the girl's father is now in jail in connection with her death.
Yes, 27-year-old Sydney Deal is being held here on charges of child abuse and neglect with substantial bodily harm. Now, I just spoke to Saya's mother, who says she doesn't wish any ill will towards Deal, but she does want some answers here. Now, Mariah Coleman says that she is numb, hurt and disappointed. Coleman tells me Deal did not have full custody of their daughter, contrary to what Deal's family said yesterday. Coleman says she saw Saya just hours before she got the phone call that she had died. Now she's waiting on Deal to contact her with an explanation. She says she has nothing bad to say to him, but wants to know why he didn't break the car windows to get their daughter to safety.
My baby just wanted love. Love. She didn't hurt nobody. She just wanted love. And if Sydney watching this, all she wanted was for you to be her father and love her, and you couldn't even do that. Everybody just pray for my family, pray for my community, because this is hitting all of us as a whole.
Last night, Coleman gathered with family and friends to mourn the loss of her daughter. They lit candles, placed flowers, and released balloons. Now, tonight, Coleman and Sydney Deal's family will come together to hold another vigil in honor of the young life that was lost. Now, we are waiting for a report from the coroner's office on a cause of death for Saya. Now, at this time, Sydney did not show in court yesterday due to a medical refusal. We reached out to Metro. They say they cannot provide any information on that because of privacy laws. Deal is expected back in court tomorrow. Reporting live from the Clark County Detention Center, Kate Houston, 8 News Now.
An investigation is underway after 2 babies were found dead in a car parked outside a South Carolina daycare. The twin boys were discovered around 5:30 last night outside the Sunshine House Early Learning Academy. They were pronounced dead at the scene. At this time, deputies say it's unclear if the staff of Sunshine House was involved.
We are getting some breaking news now into our information center as we understand 2 infants have been found dead inside a car in Richland County. Alicia Nieves, she is live from the scene with the details. This is correct. Two dead children inside a vehicle, Alicia.
Tragic news out of the Blythewood area this evening, JR. The call came in around 5:30. This is at the Sunshine House, Early Learning Academy. I'm going to step out of the way for you because it is still very much an active scene out here. This is the 10,000 block of Wilson Boulevard. Again, Richland County getting the call of 2 infants found dead inside of a car at around 5:30 this evening. Deputies arrived to find 2 infants inside a vehicle. Both were pronounced deceased at the scene by EMS. At this time, though, investigators are telling us it's unclear if there is any involvement between these deaths and this particular daycare. Again, this is the Sunshine House Early Learning Academy in the Blythewood area. RCSD says this is an ongoing investigation and further details will be released as they become available. We know that the coroner's office is on the way to assess the scene. They will update us with any further details, but as soon as we arrived, we could see multiple RCSD vehicles, both marked and unmarked, here on scene. There is crime tape right outside of the Sunshine House Learning Academy. We have other citizens here on scene. It is not certain their relation to this case, but this whole entire property is full, so we are standing on the outskirts here. But again, JR, we expect to learn further details. Tonight, we are waiting for an interview with the coroner's office to learn more. As soon as they arrive, we'll, of course, bring you those details. But for now, we're live in Blythewood. Alicia Nieves, News 19, WLTX.
Hey, Alicia, thank you. Just terrible, terrible news again. 2 children, 2 infants found dead inside a vehicle outside that daycare near Blythewood this evening. We'll have more details as they become available. As Alicia said, if the coroner's office shows up and we can talk with them, or if we can talk to authorities before the end of this broadcast, we will do so.
Hey, beautiful people. What a case. Blythewood babies found dead. These babies were found in the family's car, parked at the daycare. Details are still coming out, but it looks like the babies were in the car for about 9 hours. They had no food in their bellies. It was very hot, so they most likely suffered. And again, they were found deceased. They didn't make it. There are lots of disturbing details here that we have to sift through. As I understand it, the family is torn up about this, really, really torn up. Makes it hard to think that they have anything to do with it. I mean, clearly they have something to do with it, but it makes it hard to know whether this was intentional or not. Was it straight up filicide? Or did somebody make the worst possible mistake you can make? At least in my mind right now, it's the worst thing I can think of. I know it's happened before. I know we all get busy. I know there's a lot going on in this world. I mean, I can understand hopping out of my car and forgetting my mask. Maybe my purse, my phone, hell, maybe my keys. But it's so hard to imagine forgetting my baby. I never did that. And I wasn't always a single mom, but I was a stay-home mom. So my husband worked and I was the one who had to carry that car seat and strap the baby in and unstrap the baby and carry the car seat back in. And every single time we made a move, and I never, ever, ever forgot. Now, I don't want to come down on anybody who has forgotten, because such is life. Mistakes happen and we all fuck up, right? We all do in some way or another, but some ways are way worse than others. And over here on this channel, we're about integrity and accountability. So you got to own that. If it is a mistake that you've made or come close to making, stop right now and check yourself, so it never happens again. Because next time could be the last time. So it doesn't seem to be any foul play, you guys. Just from the press release. Of course, we're going to keep digging. This conference was 5 days ago. Based on where they were at this point, it doesn't seem to be any foul play. And that's still very disturbing. Because as I just said, how do you forget? How do you forget the babies are in the car at the daycare for approximately 9 hours? I mean, how busy do you get? To where nothing, at no point, nothing said, hey, wait a minute, I forgot to do something today. What was it? Oh shit, the kids are in the car. 9 hours, that's an entire work shift. And I respect what was said in this press conference. If these if these parents are really torn up and, visibly seem like they didn't mean for this to happen, you don't want to beat them up. But damn it, what happened? Somebody's got to ask the hard questions. How did this happen? And this cannot happen. This cannot happen, you guys. You can't get this busy. It's really that simple. You've got to do better. This was avoidable, unless it was intentional. There is nothing in this entire world more important than your babies. Let's start there. Let's get our priorities straight. Because I bet money they didn't forget their cell phone for 8 or 9 hours. Okay, I will send my condolences to the family. I pray to God they didn't have any malicious intent here. And I pray that this family gets justice, these babies get justice, and peace. And I would love to just reiterate what was said here. In God we trust. Everybody else we vet. I love that. Justice for the Blackwood babies. Let's learn more about their story and try to understand it.
And tonight in Richland County, as 2 babies were found dead inside a car late today. That discovery was made around 5:30 this afternoon outside a local daycare. News 19's Alicia Nieves joins us now with the details. Alicia?
Close to 5:30 this evening, Richland County deputies were called to this daycare, the Sunshine House Early Learning Academy in Blythewood. This is in the 10,000 block of Wilson Boulevard. The Richland County Coroner's Office says 2 twin infant boys were found dead inside a car on this property. Throughout the evening, members of several agencies, including the Richland County Sheriff's Office, the Columbia Fire Department, and the Coroner's Office, took over this parking lot. At this moment, we're still waiting to learn exactly how these babies died.
My kids used to go here.
We witnessed community members arrive to pray for everyone involved.
Really started praying for the family and praying for God to give them peace and just for the teachers that those children were maybe in their classes because a lot of people are hurting right now.
And I instantly just drove over here for prayer and to uplift the families, the community.
No parent plans to bury their children, you know. We plan for our children to bury us, so it's just a really tough thing.
I have a baby myself. I just can't imagine to go through something like this. Just the thought of it is just heartbreaking.
Richland deputies tell us it's unclear if there's any involvement by the staff at Sunshine House. The Richland County Coroner's Office tells us they're planning a press conference for tomorrow to help us learn more details about this case. We'll, of course, keep you updated. In Blythewood tonight, Alicia Nieves, News 19, WLTX.
We're going to start tonight with a story we brought you first last night at 7, an update on the deaths of twin boys in Richland County. The babies were found dead inside the family's car late yesterday in Blythewood.
And we heard from the county coroner earlier today surrounding their deaths. Our Julia Kaufman joins us live outside the Richland coroner's office with those details. Julia?
9.5 hours, you heard it. That's how long the coroner believes that Bryson and Braden McDaniel were left inside their family's car. Now, while the twins were discovered in the car outside their daycare, the coroner says that's not where they died.
It is believed that the children were possibly in the vehicle all day.
Richland County Coroner Nada Rutherford explained that the 20-month-old identical twins were allegedly put into their rear-facing car seats around 8 in the morning Wednesday, and then their parent went to work.
If this is an unfortunate accident, we pray the family can find peace, but if it was a criminal act, we will help seek justice for these babies.
Rutherford said the parent went to go pick them up from the academy in that same car, only to discover they were never dropped off.
The children were discovered by one of their parents. There was a broken car window, but the children were already deceased at that point that the window was broken out.
According to the coroner, the Sunshine House Academy, where the babies were enrolled, is not believed to be involved with this incident. The facility was closed the following day. While the cause of death for Bryson and Braden is not confirmed, Rutherford said it was likely hyperthermia.
We have two very distraught parents. Two very distraught parents.
No criminal charges, that is, have been filed in this case so far. The Richland County Sheriff's Department is investigating, but they have not shared any further details at this time. Live in Columbia, Julia Kaufman, News 19, WLTX.
Julia, thank you so much. Several times during today's press conference, Rutherford said that the parents were distraught as the investigation continues. Also, she talked about ways that parents can keep their children safe in situations like this.
Families, we ask mothers and caregivers to be diligent about checking your vehicle for your child. Just check. Open the back door. Check the car seat. A lot of, especially children this age, like Bryson and Braden, they're rear facing. So you may not notice that they're in the vehicle when you get out. So we just ask that parents be diligent. Check the back seat. Check to make sure that if you send a bag in with your child, is the bag still in the car? Is the child still in the car? So that's what we're asking families for right now, to just be diligent about it. Put a reminder in your phone. Did I drop the kids off? Very easy thing to do. All of us have cell phones. All of us have smartphones. It's a very easy way to make sure that something like this doesn't happen to your family.
For a good part of the day yesterday, we had mostly cloudy skies and we had a high temperature of 83 degrees. Meteorologist Alex Calamia shared this information about yesterday's weather with us, and we're sharing it with you, our viewers. Inside that car, even if it was 83 degrees outside yesterday with the windows rolled up, the temperature could have easily exceeded 125 degrees.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you guys so much for attending. My name is Jeffrey Lampkin. I'm the Public Information Officer for the Richland County Coroner's Office. Madam Coroner Nada Rutherford will be speaking this morning, giving updates on the investigation into the twins' death, deceased that took place. Joining us on platform today, we have Deputy Coroner Nikki, Chief Deputy Ovita, Deputy Chief Harry, and Deputy Chief Anjo. At this time, Madam Coroner Nada Rutherford.
Thank you, Jeffrey, and thank you for everyone that's here today. I'd like to make a correction because our folks work very difficult jobs, and I would like them to have the recognition that they deserve. We have two chief deputies, Ann and Harry, our deputy chief, Ovita Wilson, and our field training officer and head of our child fatality team, Nikki Acera. I am grateful for all of their hard work. Richland County EMS was dispatched at 1740 on September 1st to 10336 Wilson Boulevard to the Sunshine House Early Learning Academy located in Blythewood. On arrival at 1754, paramedics quickly assessed for signs of life and finding none, pronounced both children, who are identical twin boys, dead at 1755. The Richland County Coroner's Office confirmed that Bryson, spelled B-R-Y-S-O-N, and Braden, spelled B-R-A-Y-D-E-N, McDaniel of Blythewood, South Carolina, aged 20 months old, were in fact deceased. The Richland County Coroner's Office has reinstated the child fatality team led by Deputy Coroner and Field Training Officer Nikki Acera, who were deployed immediately yesterday, along with the others you see standing before you. Our office is working in collaboration with law enforcement, namely the Richland County Sheriff's Department and the Department of Social Services, to gather all pertinent information that may assist in pinning down a more exact timeline of the events that led to Bryson and Braden's demise. At this point in the investigation, we believe that Bryson and Braden may have been in the car for 9.5 hours before 911 was called. I personally attended their autopsies this morning. Bryson and Braden do not show any physical signs of trauma or abuse. Comprehensive x-rays do not reveal any healing fractures or acute fractures. Their internal organs were developing normally, and the only abnormalities were found in the lungs. An examination of their stomach contents is consistent with no oral intake for the time frame that we believe they were in the vehicle. Further assessment under microscope, histology, and toxicology will reveal any things that were not visible during this part of the exam. In addition, blood, vitreous humor, which comes from the eye, and urine will be sent to SLED and NMS laboratories for further examination. Examination of the body fluids will confirm or rule out any chemicals, toxins, illicit drugs, or over-the-counter medications that may have contributed to their death. The cause of death at this time will be listed as pending further studies, but it is probable that their deaths were due to hyperthermia. We will not know for certain until all of the investigation is complete. We will not announce manner of death until we have gathered all of the information. I would like to say at this time, with the evidence that we have, we do not believe the Sunshine Academy staff was involved or is complicit in any way in the deaths of Bryson and Braden McDaniel. In terms of any criminal charges, law enforcement, namely the Richland County Sheriff's Department, will have to speak to that. On behalf of the Richland County Coroner's Office, I will say this: in God we trust, and everyone else we vet. Child deaths are difficult for everyone, but we must seek answers to the questions that we have before us. We must rule out any foul play, and the tests that I listed above will be able to help us do that along with the autopsy. At this time, Bryson and Braden seem to be well taken care of by their family. If this is an unfortunate accident, we pray that the family will one day find peace. If this was indeed a criminal act, we pray and we will help seek justice. I'll take your questions at this time.
Do you know whose car they were found in, who the owner is or whoever the driver was?
The family's car.
How do they come to that, be at that location? Is there a sibling that goes, or somebody, some family member employed there? How do they arrive at that location, or what's the relationship with the Sunshine?
Thank you for your question. The children were enrolled there as students.
Did you guys locate the parents of these babies?
Yes, we have spoken with the family. They have spoken with law enforcement. And again, any criminal charges that would be potentially filed would come from the Sheriff's Department, not from the Coroner's Office. So I would kindly ask that you refer your questions to them for that. But thank you for your question.
How many types of cases like this a year do you see?
In terms of children being left in a vehicle, this is our first one this year. So I don't think this is something that, we will see often, but it does happen. There are cases across the country where, you just get into a routine and somehow children are left in a vehicle, or maybe you weren't the parent that was dropping kids off and that's not a part of your routine and you forget. So we can't speak to how or why the children were left in the vehicle for so long. And again, that's why I state if this is an unfortunate accident, we pray the family can find peace. But if it was a criminal act, we will help seek justice for these babies.
Do you have any suggestions to parents so they don't accidentally forget their kids in the back seat?
I do, and I'm really glad that you asked that question, so thank you for that. It is difficult being a parent, especially in the midst of a pandemic. You have so many other external stressors that are not a part of your normal routine. So we ask families, we ask mothers and caregivers to be diligent about checking your vehicle for your child. Just check. Open the back door. Check the car seat. A lot of, especially children this age, like Bryson and Braden, they're rear facing. So you may not notice that they're in the vehicle when you get out. So we just ask that parents be diligent, check the back seat, check to make sure that if you send a bag in with your child, is the bag still in the car? Is the child still in the car? So that's what we're asking families for right now, to just be diligent about it. Put a reminder in your phone. Did I drop the kids off? Very easy thing to do. All of us have cell phones. All of us have smartphones. It's a very easy way to make sure that something like this doesn't happen to your family.
Do you know if these car seats were rear-facing?
They were rear-facing car seats.
Are you able to share how these babies were found, or if, in fact, like a car window was broken in order to get them, or any of those details?
I will say this. There was a broken car window, but the children were already deceased at that point that the window was broken out.
Do you know which window that was?
I will let law enforcement speak to the state of the vehicle on that.
Did you say it was the back window there?
Yes.
Do you happen to know why the sheriff's office isn't here with you right now?
They are conducting an investigation, and we are responsible for Bryson and Braden in a different way than the sheriff's department. We work in collaboration with them, and so I know that if our sheriff's department isn't standing here with us, it's because they're actively working to find out what happened to Bryson and Braden on the law side.
I apologize if you answered this already, but again, who exactly found those children?
The children were discovered by one of their parents.
Do you know if it was the father?
I will let law enforcement address that, because right now no criminal charges have been filed, and I do not want to criminalize a father or a mother that may have accidentally left their child in a vehicle. So I will, out of respect for the parents who may just be terribly grieving right now, I will not say which one.
Is the parent who found them the owner of the car or the driver of the car?
The parent was driving the vehicle that belongs to the family.
Do the children have any other siblings?
They do.
And to your knowledge, when they were in the car, were they supposed to be, in fact, inside the daycare at that time? Or?
Yes, sir.
And do we know of any reports made out from that daycare that they were absent or not present, or any type of communication with them?
We do not have any reports from the daycare facility that they were missing that day. There was nothing filed, I'll say.
You said you believe that they may have been inside for over 9 hours. Do you have any idea of when the vehicle may have gotten to the daycare?
The vehicle and where the children were found, they arrived around 5:30 yesterday evening.
Just a small detail. We could say vehicle, we keep saying car though, like an SUV, just to be specific in the writing of this.
Oh, absolutely. Could you?
It's an SUV type vehicle.
Mm-hmm. It's a smaller.
Small SUV.
Yes.
You know what to make a model is?
Out of privacy for the family, I'd like to not reveal that information.
I apologize. To clarify my question, I meant what time in the morning did they happen to get to the daycare? Like, was the car there all day?
No, and I see what you're saying. No, the car was not parked in the parking lot all day. I think that would have been certainly something that the staff would have noticed. The vehicle came to the facility to that address around 5:30 p.m. and then EMS was dispatched at 17:40, which is 5:40 p.m.
So the person went to go pick up the children, correct?
Yes.
Do you know where the vehicle was? I understand it was at a workplace. Do you know what that workplace was?
Again, out of respect for the family, I will not reveal that information. But it is believed that the children were possibly in the vehicle all day.
And
obviously with the time frame.
And can you talk about the damage to the lungs that tell you this is the cause of death?
So this is why we do, why we have a cause of death that's pending further studies, because we need to look at those things underneath a microscope. We need to send them off for further testing. And so it would be actually very unprofessional of me to say this is exactly what causes, because there are so many factors that go into determining what that abnormality was caused from. So just professionally speaking, I would like to wait until we have more information.
So just to clarify the timeline, so the children were in the car, which was driven by one of the parents at another place, a workplace, for the duration of the day, and then at 5:30 came to Sunshine House, and that's when EMS was called. Okay.
Yes. We believe the children were possibly placed in the vehicle around 7:30 or 8 a.m.
And this is a difficult question to ask, but it was when a child has possibly passed away for several hours, is there any way that the parent would have been able to smell that?
You're asking if there is any odor associated with the death. There are odors associated with death. It depends on what type of death, obviously. In this instance, I will wait until we have more information before I speak to those very small details like that, because if this does end up being a criminal case, then we will certainly share that information.
From conversations with the family, did the parent forget the children were in the back seat, or is that still under investigation?
It is under investigation, but I'll tell you this. We have two very distraught parents. Two very distraught parents. Are there any other questions?
And just for you, I mean, this is very difficult, I'm sure, for you to stand in on that autopsy. How did it affect you?
I think in situations like this, for me, I try not to assign personal value in that. I try not to imagine myself in the situation. I want to know what happened to Bryson and Braden McDaniel. I want to know how I'm standing in an autopsy room looking at 20-month-old babies have an autopsy done. So for me, I want to know what happened. And that is how I'm able to do this job every single day. It's how my chiefs and my deputy chief and my field training officer are able to do this job every single day, because we want to know what happened. And so we ask questions and we try to find those answers so that we can give families closure.
Since certainly they had been in the car for a long amount of time, but with as warm as it is outside right now, just how long does it take for, especially infants who are left in a car without air conditioning, that before that situation becomes dangerous?
So that depends on a number of factors. It depends on the hydration level. Did they have something to drink or eat? We know that they possibly did not, because their stomach contents, there were no stomach contents. So it depends on a variety of factors. So there's no simple answer to that question. But if you think about a small dog who's left inside of a vehicle, it only takes a matter of hours. So this was not this didn't happen suddenly, and I think that's the part that's most upsetting, is that that these children may have suffered some, and that's the part that breaks your heart. It's not the autopsy, it's not having to process the scene, it's that they may have suffered some in this process. So we just want to find answers and try to find out what happened. But in terms of the timeline, there are just way too many factors to consider. But I will say that in the heat, things happen faster. Are there any other questions? I want to thank you guys for being here today. I want to thank my amazing team who have probably had about 2 hours of sleep and are standing here with me. We're all a little tired today, but we will not sleep until we find answers to these questions. So thank you guys. We appreciate you.
Hyperthermia is elevated body temperature due to failed thermoregulation that occurs when a body produces or absorbs more heat than it dissipates. Extreme temperature elevation then becomes a medical emergency requiring immediate treatment to prevent disability or death. The most common causes include heat stroke and adverse reactions to drugs. The former is an acute temperature elevation caused by exposure to excessive heat, or combination of heat and humidity, that overwhelms the heat-regulating mechanisms. The latter is a relatively rare side effect of many drugs, particularly those that affect the central nervous system. Malignant hyperthermia is a rare complication of some types of general anesthesia. Hyperthermia differs from fever in that the body's temperature set point remains unchanged. The opposite is hypothermia, which occurs when the temperature drops below that required to maintain normal metabolism.
Today on Cole's A Minute for Kids, we're talking to Lisa Schwing, a nurse at Dayton Children's, about the dangers of leaving children in vehicles unattended. Lisa, how big is this problem?
Since 1998, more than 500 children across the U.S. have died from hyperthermia when left unattended in a vehicle. Sadly, more than half of these reported heat stroke deaths occurred when a distracted caregiver forgot their child was in the car or truck.
What can parents do to help prevent this tragedy?
Never leave children alone in a car and get in the habit of locking unattended vehicle doors and trunks. Create reminders such as placing a purse or an item that is needed at your next stop next to your child. And take action if you see an unattended child in a vehicle by calling 911 immediately.
For more information, visit childrensdayton.org. A Minute for Kids, brought to you by Kohl's Cares and Dayton Children's. Dayton Children's, just right for kids.
Tell me this is the new damn hustle. I mean, really, we just had 2 babies die in the car. Did you not hear that story, ma'am? This woman took 2 of her kids out and forgot one, the 1-year-old, in the car from 8 to 6 while she goes to work out and whatever else. I'm trying to find the empathy, but give me a damn break. Oh my God, how does this happen? What? That's the next rabbit hole. What is the penalty? We're going to have to research this, y'all. We got to get educated. What are the laws right now? Because I think they must be pretty damn lax for these parents to keep on forgetting. It's almost like they intentionally forget. Like, is this the new way to do population control of your family? I'm sorry. I'm not insinuating she did this on purpose. I'm just pissed that she did it. Okay, again, as a mother, I never forgot my baby. Never. I never left him in the tub. I never left sharp objects out. I covered my corners, my outlets. Like, did I overdo my job? Jesus. How hard is it to just know, hey, I brought kids into this world. I need to get them out the car. Don't let this be a new trend, people. Get your shit together. And God bless that baby girl and her mother.
Okay, ready? All right. At about 6:30 this morning, 6:30 this afternoon, sheriff's deputies responded to a child that had been left in a vehicle. We're in the 8100 block of Martins Ridge Lane in the Crescent Park Village subdivision. The initial report is that the mother had 3 children, ages 5, 3, and 1, that she was going to take to daycare this morning. She dropped off the 5-year-old and the 3-year-old, but apparently left the 1-year-old child in the vehicle. She returned home, apparently went inside the house, came back out, went to exercise, came home, and then when they attempted to pick up 3 children from the daycare had no record of the 1-year-old being dropped off. They returned to the residence over here, located the 1-year-old in the backseat of the car. That would probably be about 6 p.m. So the child was in the car from 8:30 a.m. until about 6 p.m. The child was pronounced dead at the scene. We are in the early stages of our investigation. We are attempting to obtain statements from both parents and document our scene. We're having a little bit of a language issue at this point. Hopefully we'll be able to get through that, and we will release the full story once we get all of our information correct.
So did mom switch cars in the middle?
It appears that she switched cars. Like I said, there were 3 children that were transported to the daycare. There's only 2 car seats in the car. And the child was found on the rear floorboard. So we're not real sure exactly what all the circumstances are. We haven't been able to interview mom at length. The father is not being real cooperative with us at this point. And so, like I said, once we have a chance to talk to everybody, get all the facts straight, I saw the medical examiner's office just arrived here on the scene. We'll sit there and present the case to the district attorney's office, see if they want this referred to a grand jury or if they're going to take direct charges.
The baby was found where?
The baby was found on the rear floorboard of the vehicle, and the car is parked in the street.
Not even in the car
So the vehicle is this car here with the PKL?
Yes.
So was that car parked there all day, or was it parked at the house?
Well, we're trying to determine exactly where that car was. I think at some point the car may have been moved, and I know that someone from the daycare actually looked in the car after they reported that they were missing a child and didn't initially see the child because the child was on the floorboard.
The sheriff's initial tweet mentioned an address over on Fisher Glen. Obviously, this is different.
That's in the subdivision here. Where that address came up, I don't know. When you initially try pulling this address up, it doesn't come up when you're like looking at ACAT or something like that. So, but the resident is here on this street here. So we're in the right area.
Do you believe the child passed away from the heat or from something else?
Well, like I said, the medical examiner's office just arrived on the scene, and we're probably going to have to wait until we receive the autopsy report to know exactly what the cause of death is. But I understand it was mid to upper 90s today. It was sunny, and so that would probably put you in a 120-degree plus temperature inside the car.
So the parents aren't necessarily, or I guess the mother is not facing any charges at this point?
Well, like I said, at this point, we're trying to get all of our facts together so that we can present the case to the district attorney's office, and it'll be up to them whether they direct file the charge or it's for them to do a grand jury.
Mother was detained?
Yes.
Was she taken downtown?
Yes, she is our officer in Lockwood.
You mentioned a baby. How old was the baby?
The baby's 1, and then the other 2 children are 5 and 3.
Oh, you're releasing baby's name?
No.
Female?
It is a female child.
I know you said there was some struggle with getting a statement, but did the mother, have you been able to talk to her, see how she's...
No, she obviously is extremely upset, and so we're trying to get her calmed down and obtain the statement from her as accurately and coherently as possible.
The surface of this, does it appear accidental?
At this point, it does, but we're going to do a thorough investigation, and we want to be sure we haven't answered all the questions.
What condition was the vehicle found? It was shut off?
Yeah, the vehicle was off, windows was up, and the child was in the backseat.
Forgive me if you mentioned this earlier, but who made the discovery of the baby? And
they initially went to pick up all 3 children from the daycare. The daycare had only received 2 children, and then one of the daycare workers employees came back over here with the parents and located the child in the backseat of the car.
So it was the daycare employee and the parents who found the kids?
Yes.
Which daycare was this?
I don't know.
And would you mind saying anything just about, I think, the sadness of the tragedy of something that happened?
I'm not going to go there. We're just trying to find the facts.
Can you talk about language barrier? Which language do they speak?
I don't know. It's they speak English, but it's kind of probably more of a cultural issue, understanding our laws and what we're required to do and what we're allowed to do. So we're just going to have to go there.
Can you see how far away from here the family lived roughly?
They live on the street. Okay, we're ready. All right.
So here we go again. On the heels of the Blythewood babies, this happens. How does this happen? 2 babies make it to daycare. 1 baby doesn't even get into a car seat and ends up on the floorboard in the car. The secondary car, I'm assuming, because she switched vehicles. Okay? She switches vehicles. But when you switch vehicles, you don't realize that one of your babies doesn't come with you. How did the baby end up on the floorboard in the back of the car? What in the hell is going on, y'all? Now there's a language barrier, so we've got to wait for the details. But come on. Get it together. Oh my God. I can't make it make sense. I'm trying so hard. I'll see you guys in the comments.
Yeah, I just pulled in at the store and I've got to grab just a few things, then I'll be home. We can go. Hey, yeah, talk to you later. Okay, see you, bye.
Hi. Are you finding everything okay?
Do you know where your sea salt is?
I think it's over here. Let's go.
Kathy. Hey. How are you? Good. How are you? Good. I haven't seen you forever. I know. It's been way too long. What have you been up to? Just running crazy.
Even good parents can become distracted and forget their child. So when you're in a car, remember your tail. T is for teach. Teach children that cars are not spaces to play or hide in. A is for alert. Always stay alert, especially when your routine changes, like when taking a new route. And avoid distractions like mobile phones. I is for inspect. Always inspect the car before leaving it, and remember to check the back seat and the boot. L is for lock. Lock your car doors when no one's in it, and keep keys out of the reach of children. Because your tail should stay with you wherever you go. It seems unthinkable, but every year in Australia, over 5,000 children are rescued after being left unattended in a car. So don't forget your tail.
Say hi, Daddy.
A New York father has been charged with 2 counts each of manslaughter and criminally negligent homicide after his twin infants were found dead in a hot car.
A community remains in shock after 1-year-old twins Luna and Phoenix Rodriguez of New City died Friday after their father left him in the car while he was at work in the Bronx.
He loved his kids. He still does, you know. You can see about 2.5 weeks ago, they celebrated their birthday. Blow-ups and balloons and everything. And it was just beautiful. And you see the love and you see how they care. And this happens. So it was not intentional. And I'm sure he's paying, he'll be paying for the rest of his life.
Sadly, these incidents aren't rare. There have been 21 children who died after being left in cars so far this year in the United States. There is even a medical term for it. It's called forgotten baby syndrome. Studies have shown that the brain creates prospective memory when people are doing routine tasks, like dropping off children at daycare on their daily commute. But Juan Rodriguez explained it a different way to New York City police. He said, "I blanked out. Then he told them, 'My babies are dead. I killed my babies.'"
We didn't know them like personal, but enough to see they love their kids, and they care, and it's just sad, just sad.
It could happen to anyone, you're saying?
Yes, I'm saying our observations are that it happens absolutely to anyone. My observations of the parents who have forgotten children are that this cuts across all levels of society. Professionals, doctors, lawyers, professors, every level, blue-collar workers, mothers, fathers, grandparents, all have forgotten children in cars and resulted in children dying.
Which is scary.
It's just a matter of circumstances.
What we're talking about here, there is actually a name for this.
Well, this is referred to as forgotten baby syndrome, which actually describes a phenomenon in which normal, attentive, and loving parents, for reasons we don't fully understand, lose awareness that their child is in a car. So they arrive at their destination, they exit the car, and leave the child in the car now, potentially for hours. The child then dies of heat stroke.
Today from mourning families across Florida asking car makers to do more to protect kids from being left in hot cars. Reporter Adam Weiner on the new rule that could help battle forgotten baby syndrome.
It's the right thing to do regardless of what some people out there might think of the parents or the caregivers who lost their children.
Stephanie Sevilla is one of those mothers accidentally forgetting her young son in the back seat while she was at work.
I was convinced all day long, no matter how many times I talked about Gannon, he was at daycare.
Instead, Sevilla's son died in the car, and it turns out Sevilla's story is tragically common, especially in Florida, where 84 children have died of heat stroke in the backseat of a car in the past quarter century. For Sevilla and many others, it was a change in their routine that led to the fatal mistake.
The baby bottles were put in the back seat. And so I didn't have my normal queue, which I usually kept the baby bottles in the front seat.
That was in 2009, and these days technology can act as a visual reminder.
These are not bad parents. These are not parents who don't care about their children. What's very clear to me is this is about the frailty, the flaws of the brain.
Professor David Diamond of USF is among those who spoke on Capitol Hill today in support of legislation that would require car makers to install already existing technologies that can alert parents with either a noise or a vibration system.
And we need to understand it at a scientific level and therefore approach it with modern technology.
Sevilla wishes that technology was around for her in 2009.
All day long, I was convinced that I had dropped him off at daycare.
I'm Adam Weiner for ABC Action News.
Website kidsandcars.org says 9 children have died so far this year after being left inside hot cars. Last year, there were 39 such deaths, and since 1990, there have been almost 800. Here in the Bay Area, a 2-year-old boy died this February after his sister left him for 5 hours in an SUV outside the daycare where she worked. And then last September, a Hillsborough County firefighter forgot to drop his son off at daycare. The 23-month-old boy died, but charges were later dropped against Troy Whitaker.
The district attorney's office has not presented the case. I repeat, has not presented the case to a grand jury. It would take, in the event that they did, a majority of the grand jury, that's 12 members of the 23, to vote out an indictment. They have not opted at this point to move in that direction. The reason for waiving my client's speedy trial time is because the district attorney's office, and again in speaking with them this morning, is committed to a full, fair, and thorough investigation as to what happened. We believe that they will come to the only conclusion which you can in this case, and that this was a horrific, horrible accident, which has certainly taken a toll on my client Juan and his wife Marissa, of course, their beautiful children and their beautiful family. They are seeking, of course, and continuing and being transparent about the therapy they're getting and attempting to feel better, to be better. And again, are so grateful for so many families and friends and everyone else who prays for them and who uplifts them every day. They have a long way to go. They are staying strong throughout this process and are attempting to do the best they can to be mentally better and not only to be there for themselves and their families, but to have the recognition and understanding that this event cannot go without anyone else being assisted. We know that precious Phoenix and Luna, their beautiful twins, cannot die in vain. And it's for that reason that Juan and Marissa Rodriguez have gone to Washington, D.C. to push forward legislation regarding hot cars and the impacts that it has on children and the necessity of manufacturers to equip cars with alert systems so that parents, caregivers, caretakers could be alerted to that. They had the strength to do that, notwithstanding what's occurred here. They've been involved with other families across the country. They've uplifted each other in doing that. And not only in Washington, D.C., but here in New York, they're looking at legislation that would deal with daycare centers alerting parents that their kids have not been checked in addition to, again, having manufacturers install something that lets parents and caretakers know that someone's in the back seat. They're absolutely committed to that cause. They're committed through it, not only with working with other families, but indeed their foundation is committed as well to helping whoever they can and however they can.
The situation wasn't right. Something didn't feel right. You know, it definitely was not okay for this kid to be in the back of this hot car on this day. It was so hot outside. We were actually swimming in the pool, me and my kids and my wife. We were out there, you know, catching some sun. It was a very warm day. Probably around lunchtime or so, we decided it was too hot. So we decided to go ahead and pack up and actually leave the apartment complex. As we were walking out, my family was running to the car. I immediately asked my wife, I was like, hey, do you see that? She's like, what? And I was like, you know, look right there. Looks like there's a baby in a baby seat in the back of that car. And it's hot out here. As a father, it felt weird to me that somebody would leave their kid on purpose in the back of a vehicle, especially with how hot it was outside. That's when we decided we have to do something. And we started by trying to just open the door, try to see if the vehicle was left unlocked, and it wasn't. And then we decided to go ahead and we had to make entry into the vehicle either by breaking a window or whatever was necessary at that point. One of the times when I hit the window with the crescent wrench, the baby he just sort of jumped, and I was like, oh my God, he's still alive. And at that point I was like, okay, we got to get him out. So I just grabbed the window was cracked slightly. So I just grabbed it and pulled back on it as hard as I could. At which point I was able to get my forearm down in there to unlock the door. Around that same time, my wife got on the phone with 911 to get some police presence there. My arm got stuck in the window. I ended up getting my hand out, and then we grabbed the baby. We were still trying to figure out who the parent was. There was a cell phone on the passenger seat, and then ultimately we just called the last number that was dialed. Within a minute or so, a gentleman starts running towards us. At this point, the baby's kind of coming out of it. He's awake, but not very alert yet. As soon as he sees his father, he starts crying, and he starts coming out a lot more. Around that same time, fire finally rolled in, and they started taking vitals. We actually gave the baby over to the fire department. They started doing some of the vitals with him. You know, the only thing that I can tell people that find themselves in the same situation is to do something. You have to do something. A minute more can make it where that child or that infant wouldn't live. So you have to act, and you have to act fast and not worry about anything outside of just making sure that kid is safe.
at 5:30, the Quincy father who accidentally left his infant in the car now has a new way to make sure it never happens again. He's putting his wallet, an essential item, right next to the car seat. News Center 5's Pam Cross tells us he is not alone. Forgetting a child inside a car happens more than you think it does.
The dad who left his baby daughter said he checked again and again today as he went from car to the T. He's still shook up and grateful, and he is not alone.
It's also not that uncommon. I mean, all of us have forgotten things, maybe in different scales, but it definitely happens, especially when you're sleep deprived with a baby at home.
Christine Coe is editor of the Boston Mamas blog. Federal transportation officials say 30 children died last year after being left alone in a vehicle, most under age 2. This little one rescued from a hot car last year in Houston, he's okay. Wednesday's incident also not tragic. The dad hopped on the train in North Quincy and then remembered the baby calling for help.
I left my 1-year-old baby in my SUV by accident this morning.
Medical professionals call it forgotten baby syndrome, and there are tips. Check the back seat before you lock up, or keep an essential item you need, like a wallet, near the child. A favorite trick, when you put the baby in the car seat, put a stuffed animal up front. That reminds you there's precious cargo in the seat. The government has a prevention campaign called Look Before You Lock to prevent child heat stroke.
You know, he had the presence of mind to not only identify that, yeah, okay, I need to go back, but I got to call the authorities. Somebody needs to check on my baby to make sure they're okay.
The bottom line, double check, or as the government campaign says, look before you lock. I'm Pam Cross, WCVB News Center 5.
Anybody has questions in the audience, but here we go. Engine is off. We do not get the option to hydrate. We were rocking this just by ourselves, trying to simulate as much of a childlike situation as possible. We're getting the call to go, so we're going to stop here. We're going to take you with us into the ambulance and get some more readings. And getting ready to open the door here. So I'm going to watch Andrew get out of the truck. Let's go. And they're going to take him directly. And here I go. Start drinking. Wow, that burst of air feels very good, and it is 100 degrees out here.
picture you're looking at now, beautiful people, is the father, Sidney Deal, and his little baby girl. In light of the Blythewood babies being left in the car for over 9 hours, it took me to a place. It took me to a very, very sad place. A place full of questions. And I had about a 45-minute conversation with my newly teenage son. And he was so confused. He gave me so many examples. Hypothetical scenarios where you just don't forget your baby. Well, Sidney didn't forget his baby. He knew she was in the car. He had just had an argument with his girlfriend. She kicked him out. He forgot his cell phone inside, so he puts the baby girl into the car and goes back to the door, starts negotiating for this damn cell phone. They go back and forth. Then he realizes he's locked himself out of the car. Keys and baby locked inside. So now he starts to negotiate the phone call for help, telling the girlfriend on the other side of the door, call the tow truck driver. Then he gets the pricing for the tow truck, and well, that's too much, and just goes back and forth and back and forth. He never tells her the car is not running. She knows the baby's in the car, but we all assume she thought the car was running and the baby was okay. So as they go back and forth with their drama, the baby is slowly dying in a hot car. Not only that, but Sidney, he refuses to break out the windows in his nice new car. He's hell-bent on finding another way. I will say, due to his own ignorance, not knowing that his baby was dying, he refused to break that window. Eventually, fast forwarding, some help comes along. And of course, when they break into this car for him, they realize that his little princess is gone. How? How do you let this happen, Dad? See, I would have broken every window in my car. You understand? Insured or not, I would have been a crazy, deranged lady trying to get into that car. But not this guy. I'm not sure just how deep into his feelings he was, or if he never heard the stories about hyperthermia or infants left in cars. But for some reason, he thought he had more time. And he played a dangerous game and he lost. And the world lost this beautiful baby girl because of that. I say again to all the parents, this cannot happen. Let's learn more about this little baby story. And parents, please do better.
Nervous. He flagged the officer down, telling him that the baby was in the car. And they said that they couldn't break the window because they had to get permission from the sergeant. They had to make sure it was his car and stuff like that. But they sat out here for like 2 hours just walking around looking inside the car. Probably about like an hour and a half after them being out there, they looked inside, and I guess the baby wasn't moving, so the officer just broke the window, and then they unlocked the door, and Sydney took out the baby. Sydney was starting to tear up and stuff. He was very frantic.
Like, I will honestly believe like it was a tragic accident. Like, he was in the midst of leaving, and he forgot that the alarm pad or the device thing to the push start wasn't in his pocket, so it probably robbed her. And I seen him since I moved in, and I can genuinely say since that baby was small, he's loved on her, never seen a bad time when he had that little girl in his possession. Internet, the 3 different stories about her being neglected, abused, too, and it was like, no, it's not that. From what I heard from when my mom called me on Facebook, the Messenger Live, and I seen, like, he was walking back and forth waiting for them to break open the window. He even tried, they told him no. They kept looking inside of his car and said she's okay. And then my mom told me they kept looking inside of my car too, asking who car does that belong to. That car has nothing to do with what's going on right here. This is the father, he told you, like, hey, it wasn't a call or nothing. He saw you guys roll by, he flagged you down. I'm in need. I'm desperate right now, I need help getting my child out. It's hot right now. So it happened later on in the day yesterday, so it was a couple degrees hotter than it is now inside of a black car with black tint, with black leather. So it's very, very hot inside of that car. Why do you guys have to wait? And he was just screaming her name like, sigh, baby, breathe, sigh, breathe, baby. That's an accident. Like I begged you guys to get my child out of this car. And then you guys still have the audacity after I begged you and flagged you down, asked for help to get my child out of this car. You guys still have the audacity to take me to a police station. If they would have actually just got the baby out the car alive first and then do whatever they did with him now. It's like who can accept that? Yet the fact of the accident, yeah, but still that accident could have stopped. He said they were out here for 2 hours before they got the little girl. We could have been off Durango on 215, that child would have been out that car the moment he flagged them down. But literally the area that we're in now is all type of different stories that she was neglected, abused, all of these different allegations that we're hearing besides what genuinely happened. The father flagged them down, genuinely scared, looking for help. And in the instant, it turned to 2 hours later, he's having to mourn over his daughter.
But the guy was sitting on the porch for a minute, and then he started trying to get in his car, and he couldn't get in his car. He finally flagged the police down, and I'm thinking he just locked the keys in the car. I ain't never get up and go see. They just came and got clothes hanging from me, one of the guys in the house. Tried to get in the car, but I never knew there was a baby in the car at all the time. And it's been about an hour and 45 minutes. Finally bust the window. The car was running at first. He left the baby in the car was running, and the car cut off, and the air cut off, and said the baby had locked the doors, and he couldn't get in when he came out the house. And the police were out there trying to help him for almost 2 hours. And then they finally, the baby passed out probably, and they finally bust the window out and got the baby out and laid it on the porch and tried to CPR. No help. It took the paramedics 15 minutes to come over here after they got the baby out. I figured that they should have had the prior people over here, if they know it was a baby. The police should have busted one out at first when the boy flagged them down and told them it was a baby in the car. And all the time, it was a baby in the car all this time. That's why they was helping them try to get the car door open. And then, then they finally busted the window out and got the baby out, and the baby was dead already. If that was my baby, I would have busted my own when the car went out. You can always get another car. You can't get another life.
Developments in the tragic death of 22-month-old Saya Deal. Her father, who's facing child abuse charges in her death, has posted bond after a court hearing Thursday morning.
Sir, you need to stay out of trouble during this time when you're out of custody. I promise you, any reports from house arrest or anything is going to wind you back in custody. Do you understand? Yes.
27-year-old Sydney Deal got a stern warning from the judge as he posted the $20,000 bond to be released from jail. On Monday, October 5th, around 3:30 p.m., police were called to 1719 H Street, where the report said Deal rejected their offers to break the window or call a tow truck or locksmith and said he just needed to call his brother. A police spokesperson said Tuesday evening that officers waited to break the window because Deal was adamant about protecting the car and they could see the child breathing. But at some point, the vehicle turned off, leaving the child in a hot car, as neighbors described it taking more than an hour and a half before the window was busted and the child's body was removed. Sydney is expected back in court at 10 a.m. December 3rd.
Even good parents can become distracted and forget their child. So when you're in a car, remember your tail. T is for teach. Teach children that cars are not spaces to play or hide in. A is for alert. Always stay alert, especially when your routine changes, like when taking a new route. And avoid distractions like mobile phones. I is for inspect. Always inspect the car before leaving it, and remember to check the back seat and the boot. L is for lock. Lock your car doors when no one's in it, and keep keys out of the reach of children. Because your tail should stay with you wherever you go. It seems unthinkable, but every year in Australia, over 5,000 children are rescued after being left unattended in a car. So don't forget your tail.
A-R-T-A-V is in Victor, I-A. W-I-L-S-O-N, Wilson is my last name.
And during that hearing, they mentioned that your son cared more about the window of his car than his daughter.
That's totally not true. The police officers were there when I spoke to him yesterday. He called me and the police officers were with him. And we were on FaceTime. And he asked the officers to help him. I said, did y'all check all the doors? Did y'all check everything? He said, yes. He said to the officers, he said, Mom, can you get a locksmith over here? I said to him, I said, okay, I'm going to call now. And then I heard the officer say, okay, she's sending it, your mom's going to send it. That's all on body cam and everything. My son was not negligent with the way he handled it. It was not that he cared more about the car. He thought his daughter was in air. In air. In air.
If the car was running,
the car was running, and she was in the car.
If it was something wrong with her right then and there, the cops would have broke the window.
How did Saya end up in the car?
He was in the car. He just, from what I'm hearing, he just had pulled back up. He was coming to get his phone from his girlfriend. When he went back to the car door was locked. That's when he started trying to get into the car. A cop was rolling past. He flagged the cop down. The cops got out, helped, assisted him with the car. And then when he said that the air was on, they was like, oh, okay. And someone was coming. A locksmith was coming. And that's what I know. And I still was trying to get to him. I was en route to him. So he works. My son is a great father. I don't know what all of this about, what they were saying in the court, but he's a very responsible young man. Yes, he's 27. He has his own apartment, his own car, and he had full custody of his daughter. So he's very responsible because I raised him as such, because I'm a doctor and I have children as well and take care of my children. So they're not going to smear my son like he just was the average Joe Schmo out here, because he is not.
Did Sydney say Saya was struggling at all?
No, he said, Mom, she's good. And the police officers was there. They saw she was good.
Her alive yes, they said she was knocking at the window.
It said she was good.
So how long was Saya unattended?
She never was unattended. She never was unattended.
He never got to go back into the house.
He never got to go back into the house. The girl didn't let him in the house. He went for his phone. She didn't give it to him. And then when he realized that he was locked out the car, that's when the police rolled by. He flagged the police down, and he started asking neighbors to use the phone to call us, to call his family. And that's how we knew anything about what was going on.
How long did this whole thing take from?
Probably, I say about 30-something minutes. The whole situation from when I was contacted and when I got there.
And Saya's mother, is she aware of what happened?
Yeah, she was out there. She was out there yesterday. She was upset as expected, but my son had full custody.
So what happened with your son's appearance today?
They said medical, something medical. That's why we're on our way over to the Clark County Detention Center to see what's going on with my son.
Have you heard from him since he's been in?
No, I haven't heard nothing from my son.
Is there something you'd like to say about the kind of person that he
He is awesome. I raised him. He's a man. He's not the average young man out here. Yeah, he's an African American. But my baby is a grown man. And he take care of his children. He worked for Alert Security. And I'm going to make sure he had character letters. My son is not what they trying to make him out to be.
Anybody that really know him know these things about
Everybody. Everybody. So this is, I'm just going. I might be just saying things, but this is my heart right now. I don't know if my son, he already battling losing his daughter. His first daughter.
What was Naya to your son?
She was everything. We got pictures we can show you. She was everything.
Wherever he went, she went. She was with him everywhere.
He had
He
that baby
never
when
left
she
his
was
baby.
4 months. Had that baby when she was 4 months.
Everywhere he was at, she was with him.
And he had full custody?
Yes. She been with him. And us.
He's been fighting for his child since she was 4 months. That's he has custody of her.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm so sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
When Sidney Deal found his 1-year-old daughter locked inside his new car Monday afternoon, he asked his girlfriend to call his insurance company about sending a locksmith, the Las Vegas Sun reported. But after 20 minutes of haggling over the cost, Deal told her to hang up and went outside to flag down a passing police officer at 3:30 p.m., according to the publication. The officer offered to break a window or call a tow truck, but Deal instead asked him to call his brother, KMOV reported. When his brother arrived, Deal asked him to call their mother to summon a locksmith using her insurance. His brother wrapped his t-shirt around his fist and prepared to break a window on the Nissan Altima, but Deal stopped him and said he could not afford to replace it, Klaus reported. Deal eventually permitted the officer to break a window on the car, which had been left running with the air conditioner on, but 1-year-old Saya Deal had already died from the heat, KMOV reported. Officers arrested Sidney Deal, 27, on suspicion of child neglect causing substantial bodily harm.
According to a recent national report, 52 children lost their lives in hot cars in 2018, the highest number on record. Dr. Baruch Fertel is an emergency department physician at Cleveland Clinic. He says the inside of a car can climb to deadly temperatures even if it's not incredibly hot outside.
With the windows fully up, as the temperatures outside start to rise, or even if they're not as hot outside but the sun is shining directly in the car, it could be a matter of minutes before temperatures rise to dangerous levels, 120, 130 degrees Fahrenheit, that could be deadly for a child.
Dr. Fertel says children are more susceptible to the extremes of temperature because of their size. Even a short period of time in very hot temperatures can cause severe heat stroke or even death. He says the overwhelming majority of families who suffer these tragedies are caring, loving parents who may have become distracted. Some experts recommend putting a cell phone, a purse, or something else that's needed in the back seat to force yourself to check it, even if you're sure the child is not there. He says it's good to get into the habit of checking every single time, and when you get home, make sure removing your child from the car is the first thing you do. Dr. Fertel says people should feel empowered to speak up if something doesn't seem right, because intervention could potentially save a life.
It's so important if someone sees something to say something. If you're a daycare provider and usually a child comes by a certain time and they're not there, call the parent and ask, why is the child not there? Did you not mean to bring the child?
Dr. Fertel says it's never okay to leave a child in a car, even for a minute, because that minute could turn into 10 minutes or an hour with devastating consequences.
It's a nightmare scenario, a young child locking themselves inside a car on a hot day by accident, one that mum T. Huynh hopes she never finds herself in again.
We had a very close call. My daughter was playing with keys, which you shouldn't do, I just found out.
A simple mistake RACQ says happens all the time.
What the heck, Mommy?
In the last 12 months, they've rescued 1,300 babies in similar situations.
That's around 3 or 4 babies every single day in Queensland. Never give your child the keys to play with. It's just too dangerous.
The statistics are not improving, and with a heat wave on the way.
So Monday and Tuesday are looking to be the hottest days this week, with temperatures through a pretty wide area reaching the mid to high 30s, with a number of locations also getting into the low 40s as well.
It's a timely reminder to always take children with you, even if it's only for a short period of time.
It takes just as little as 7 minutes for a vehicle to reach 40 degrees.
Even when parked in the shade, temperatures can reach 85 degrees.
Not only will this put a child at great risk, you could also face the law. Any parent or guardian who leaves a child unsupervised intentionally for an unreasonable amount of time risks up to 3 years imprisonment.
Better to be safe than sorry. Natasha Proknievich, 9 News.
Tonight we are hearing from the mother of the 20-month-old girl who was found dead inside a car earlier this week. Thank you so much for joining us at 4 o'clock. I'm Kirsten Joyce.
Good afternoon. I'm Brian Loftus. Officials say the girl was discovered unresponsive by her father inside the vehicle on H Street near Owens, but would not break the window to get her out. 8 News Now reporter Kate Houston is live from the Clark County Detention Center, where the girl's father is now in jail in connection with her death.
Yes, 27-year-old Sydney Deal is being held here on charges of child abuse and neglect with substantial bodily harm. Now, I just spoke to Saya's mother, who says she doesn't wish any ill will towards Deal, but she does want some answers here. Now, Mariah Coleman says that she is numb, hurt and disappointed. Coleman tells me Deal did not have full custody of their daughter, contrary to what Deal's family said yesterday. Coleman says she saw Saya just hours before she got the phone call that she had died. Now she's waiting on Deal to contact her with an explanation. She says she has nothing bad to say to him, but wants to know why he didn't break the car windows to get their daughter to safety.
My baby just wanted love. Love. She didn't hurt nobody. She just wanted love. And if Sydney watching this, all she wanted was for you to be her father and love her. And you couldn't even do that. Everybody just pray for my family, pray for my community, because this is hitting all of us as a whole.
Last night, Coleman gathered with family and friends to mourn the loss of her daughter. They lit candles, placed flowers, and released balloons. Now, tonight, Coleman and Sydney Deal's family will come together to hold another vigil in honor of the young life that was lost. Now, we are waiting for a report from the coroner's office on a cause of death for Saya. Now, at this time, Sydney did not show in court yesterday due to a medical refusal. We reached out to Metro. They say they cannot provide any information on that because of privacy laws. Deal is expected back in court tomorrow. Reporting live from the Clark County Detention Center, Kate Houston, 8 News Now.
But as we head into the hot summer months, there is a terrible danger for children forgotten in hot cars. It happens an average of 37 times a year nationwide. Rarely do we hear firsthand from a parent involved in one of these tragedies. But tonight, one Virginia woman wants you to hear her story, no matter how hard it is for her to tell.
Oh my God, no!
It's almost unbearable to hear. A mother distraught after realizing her 9-month-old son, Bryce, the light of her life, is dead. It happened 8 years ago, but for Lynn Balfour, the pain is still raw.
I prayed to God to please take my place. Let me take his place.
It was March 30th, 2007. Balfour, an Army reservist, had hardly slept in days. Bryce had a cold and was up all night, and her morning routine was unusual. The car, the placement of the car seat, and the diaper bag were all different. And then, during her drive, an important call came from work. It wasn't until she spoke to the babysitter that afternoon that panic set in. The high that day was only 66 degrees, but little Bryce did not survive.
I thought to myself, there is no way I forgot my son. There's just no way. There's no way that he is gone.
On that terrible day, Balfour made her son a promise.
No matter how hard it would be over and over again to relive the situation and the events of that day, that I would tell my story as many times as I could to make sure that his death wasn't for nothing. Because I was one of those parents that said that that could never happen to me.
Heat stroke is the leading cause of vehicle death for children not involved in crashes. Devices such as this one, now in development, can alert a parent who has unwittingly left a child behind. But it's hard to convince parents to buy one.
Everybody thinks it could never happen to them.
Balfour is speaking to a group of new mothers in Alexandria. She tells them putting a reminder like a teddy bear in the front seat when a child is on board can help.
I share my story to honor my son's memory.
After Bryce's death, Balfour and her husband had 4 more children. She says the pain of losing Bryce never leaves her. It's just something she's learned to live with.
My 4-year-old Chase said to me the other day, you know, Mommy, Bryce is in heaven because he died in your car, right, Mommy? He was too hot. And he's 4 years old, and he said, it's okay, Mommy, you're a good mommy.
Balfour was charged with second-degree murder. The charges were downgraded to involuntary manslaughter, and she faced up to 15 years in jail. However, it took the jury just 90 minutes to find her unanimously not guilty.
You know, we often tell that story. Every year we have a story that like that, and we tell it, and we always say, how could that happen? After you talk to her now, can you understand how that could happen?
Well, you understand that she was sleep deprived. You understand her routine changed. You understand she got an important call from work and was distracted. And it's just an awful tragedy. And, you know, I commend her for telling her story, because if it saves one life, then it was worth it to tell the story.
All right. Very nice. Very nice. Nicely done. And thank her next time you talk to her, for all of us.
We will.